One thing that happens all the time in anyone's life is people love to tell you what to do. I think for me, most recently, this has definitely happened with college, you know? I'm talking about the schools that I want to apply to or the schools I want to go to, and people are saying, no, you should apply to this one. Why are you applying to that school? Why did you choose to go to that school? And I think that's something that comes up a lot, is this idea of knowing somehow what is better for other people than what they know for themselves. And honestly, I think I've done that a lot personally. I think there's a lot of times where someone has told me a decision they're making, and in my head, I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's the best decision. And we're humans, so we think that we honestly know what's right and what's correct to do for that person. And it's interesting because I listen to these other people who are telling me what to do, and I'm like, I'm definitely not going to do that. But then those same people have their conversations in their head where it's like, Alex should have applied to this school, Alex should have gone to this school. And in my head, I'm like, no, like that definitely is not the fit for me. But for them, they're thinking that they don't see any other option. And I think that comes from a lot of different things. One comes from this idea, what we believe is correct. We like to, self-serving bias is one of the terms. We like to think that we're always doing the correct thing, or we have the right decisions or idea behind every thought we have and every move we make. But a lot of times the truth is that's not accurate. But it's something we believe, and it's something we firmly believe. I mean, I believe that all the time. I truly do. So anyway, we believe that we should tell people where to go to college and what decisions to make with their life. I think for me, most often the idea was brought to me that I should be applying to way more Ivies and be doing way more intensive, low acceptance academic schools. And I think that comes up a lot. I think for me in my school personally, I've always been, I don't want to say someone who's always strived for the highest academic achievement at our school, but that is definitely what I've done. And I think in people's mind that automatically leads to, oh, an Ivy, a very high acceptance or a very low acceptance school. And I am going to a low acceptance school, but not like an Ivy. That's because I didn't really apply to Ivies. I applied to two, only one of which I seriously considered. The other one I just kind of applied to, but we're not going to talk about that. And it's curious to think about how when results were coming out for different people and what schools they got into, a lot of people started asking me what schools I got into and what schools I didn't get into. Now, somehow, there were 3 different people who came up to me on the same day and asked me if I got into Stanford. I didn't apply to Stanford. And then 3 weeks later, when some other decisions came out, people started thinking that I got into Harvard, when again, I didn't apply to Harvard. I think Harvard's a great school and I'm going to apply there for law school, but not for me personally for undergrad. And it's just curious because I had never even mentioned these places at all, except for Harvard for law school, so maybe that one's fair. But people just immediately assumed that I had been applying there and that's what I was going for, when in reality that wasn't even on my application, my Common App. I wanted to take a moment to just reflect on my experience of the collegiate journey and choosing a college. And if you've already chosen a college, I also think it's curious to think about how you went through it and if you even care about it or think about it anymore. Because my journey of choosing a school is done, and I haven't thought about it really since just coming up with an idea for a video of something to talk about. But I wanted to talk about it because I think it's something interesting and something that I feel like I never fully reflected on or came to a closing point of. And I think that's important to close that off. For me, when I was first choosing college, I think it's curious because I had something in my mind that immediately said liberal arts education, liberal arts school is the way to go. Like a small school. That doesn't mean they're liberal in ideology, although often they are very liberal in ideology. So that is one thing. I didn't want to go to a huge school, and I think my thought process was behind that was I wanted a true undergraduate experience. Now, I also understand there are a lot of big schools with true undergraduate experience, but I just wanted somewhere that was fully undergraduate based. And that was my thought, and I didn't want to go into a big, none of the majors I want to do are particularly good at big schools versus little schools. I mean, I'm considering political science, which is very much a make what you do. Economics, again, make what you do. And the only thing that possibly could be good at a big school is like educational studies. But even educational studies, you can succeed very well in a school that is small. And whether it's a small school or a big school, it helps to prep for law school, which is something in the end that I'm considering. I just chose to go for small schools, and I was looking for location. That's the first thing I kind of looked for. And the 2 places I wanted to check out were the Northwest and the Northeast. The Northwest because I had always loved the rain. I love rain so freaking much. It's like the best weather and there's nothing better than it, but that's okay. So I went there and I said, let me look at these small liberal arts schools. I looked at Lewis and Clark, I looked at Reed, I looked at Puget Sound, and I thought, yeah, these are great. These don't speak to me though. They're great schools, fantastic schools, but I was like, nah, not quite me. So I went to the Northeast. I looked at schools in Massachusetts. I looked at Amherst. I looked at Wesleyan. Then I went a little more south. I'm not going to talk about my school because I mean, I'll mention it, but not the school name. So I looked towards the Northeast and I found a lot of, join the Northeast. I went there for a few summers. I went there for Harvard summer. I went there for Brown, some classes there. I learned I do not like physics, and I learned I love law. I also learned that I like that environment. And then while I was doing that, over the summers, I've been a camp counselor. I think that's great. I think one thing that I wish I'd done a little more in high school is had like a very specific passion project, because I have a lot of things. There are so many things that I love to do. Student council, namely, is probably the top one, but I love to student direct. I love to play Frisbee. I am part of the Tri-M. I'm part of National English Honor Society, our Thespians Honor Society, our just general volunteering honor society. There were a lot of things I was a part of, which I all loved. Every single one I had a ton of joy and a ton of excitement to be a part of. But the truth is, it was a lot. And I was able to manage it and make it successful. And all the leadership roles I had, I think I always did above what was expected of me, but I never think I did what was truly a project that I was this is something I'm pushing really hard. I think at the end of the year, I did some focus groups and I wrote a report based on those focus groups, and I think that was super great, and I had a lot of passion with that. But by the time college app season came around, it was already over. Now, to be fair, I got into the school I wanted to get into. I got into the school that I wanted to ED to. I didn't end up EDing. I think everyone who ED'd that I know, not everyone, a lot of people had success with their EDs, so that's great. I also know a few people who have reconsidered their EDs and said, I don't know if that was the best choice for me. So I'm happy with what I did. Now, I did get into the school I would have ED'd to, so I'm kind of not in a great position to say that, but be really careful if ED is something that you're considering. Anyway, so I chose my school namely because of the values that the school had. I think this year I worked a lot on identifying what my own values are: passion, compassion, respect, and I wanted to see if I could find a school that also had that. This school has a few different values, but in essence, they mean the same thing as mine: concern for others, respect for your neighbors and for the community, and being able to create a community that supports itself. The one thing it's kind of missing is passion. Now, there's passion for people, which in my eyes can almost mean the same thing. So from values, I ended up settling on my school, and I enjoyed the people I met and all the experiences I had there, and I think I'm gonna really enjoy it. But we've been starting orientation, and let me just say, this group chat is the weirdest thing ever. I really hope they calm down, because it's they're trying to plan concerts and things, and it's we still have 2 months until we even see each other for the first time. Chill out. But also at the same time, it's exciting. I'm in a lucky space. So I just want to talk about that. If you are a rising junior or senior, don't stress too much about college. Wherever you go, you're going to make the most of it. And if it's not the right place, guess what? You can always transfer. Additionally, if you're not a junior or senior, or even if you are, be careful about the labels you put on people, specifically when applying to schools. And then in general, whenever you say something to someone about, a preconceived notion you had of them, and you verbalize that gets embedded in their brain, and it hangs on for a long time. So just always something to think of, but I hope you enjoyed the Skywars. It was a fun game, and we'll see you next time.